Why don't you play this guitar just for a minute for everybody, because this guitar is the first time you've touched this one, right?
This is the first, yeah.
So same thing, hold my hands to the fire, and does it get your tone and, you know?
Yeah, but you told me to play really quiet.
That's okay,
so.
I'm fine, go. What's interesting about it to me, David, there's a high-end note way up on the top. Mm-hmm. There's a beautiful high mid-range and a mid-range, and then you don't have a whole bunch of low mids, and then there's bass note.
The goal for me has always been to get tight bottom end and creamy top.
Right.
And with just enough mid-range to push the note out without clouding it up, like an overwound pickup. The mid-range that you hear in a pickup that has too many windings, it's like this.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go over some other things that you are deeply insistent on this. So the neck shape, you should talk about that for a minute, because you have been crystal clear about exactly what neck shape this has. This is a neck shape that's not on any of our other guitars. Right. And so where did all that come from?
It came from we measured the 87 gold top, and then we measured the McCarty, the 93 McCarty that I used forever. Yeah. And we discovered that each of them had a similar anomaly, where there was like a spot down here where there was a little less wood. Mm-hmm. And so we interpolated between those two guitars, which are my favorite necks. Ultimately, it comes down to playability. You know, can I play the way I play? It's a balance between having enough wood where my hand is supported and that's going to push the tone out there. Mm-hmm. But I don't buy into the whole bigger is better thing. I mean, up to a point, you can get a neck too small and the guitar is dead. Yeah. But for me, it has to be playable up here. It has to just feel right. And ultimately, you know, again, I go back to that 59 335. The neck on that thing is just perfect. I mean, absolutely perfect. And it's not like every other 59 335. But then again, my 54 Strat, my 52 Tele also have what I call perfect necks, and they're not the same shape. So it's not a one size fits all thing for me. It's just that when they get to a certain width or depth, they become unplayable. I lose the nuance. So,
are you happy with this neck shape as it sits?
This is my neck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm very happy with the neck shape. And so, combined with that, I spec, and I know you love me for this, but so the width of this fingerboard is slightly narrower than some of your other guitars. Mm-hmm. Because, again, for me personally, and I don't have small hands, but I need to be able to fret with my thumb and get up. I got to be able to get around and do everything I do up here. So when you ever so slightly have a little narrower fingerboard, what we have spec'd out is the angle of the way the frets are finished. So if they go down too much of a slant, you lose that real estate. And this way, I am able to have the neck width I want and not have the string fall off the edge of the fretboard. And it's a balance. I mean, so much of this is about finding a balance of not feeling like you're hitting railroad tracks when you're going up and down the fingerboard.
I call it railroad tracky. I don't like it.
Yeah. And that's not what this is, but it's different. This guitar has a particular spec, and I'm sure the fret guys really are happy about this.
No, actually, the people here, it's doing it to your spec or doing it to the other spec. It's not a difficulty issue. It's just that it's got to be done the way you want it to be done. Look, this description of the guitar is just going to go over and over and over again about how groundedly nitpicky you are about this. So let's stop with that for just a sec. Tell a story about why you're playing a PRS and not a different brand. Remember the one you remember that story? This is a great story. Come on, just tell the story.
Well, I've told it so many times, but I'll tell it again. Right, when I got to Austin, I had one guitar. I had a 1960 Stratocaster Fiesta Red that I bought in Memphis for $400.
That ain't gonna happen again.
I still have it.
Yeah.
I tried to sell it a couple times. My wife wouldn't let me sell it. So she reminds me of that a lot. So like everybody in Austin played a Strat. Almost every guitar player. And there were so many unbelievably great guitar players in Austin at that time. There still are. But it just was like the concentration, the percentage of guitar players. You could go out every night and I'm like, that guy's incredible. And, they all had their own unique thing. And it was a Fender town. And I was at a party. This is back when I was out every night. I was playing with Lou Ann Barton, so I could go to Antone's for free every night. And I kind of went there every night for free. And there was always a party afterwards. It's 3:30 in the morning, and I'm out in the back of somebody's yard, and, the cops, and there are no cops in Austin, just like anything went back then. And there was a guy in town who was kind of a mover and shaker in the sort of management. He just was always around. He's a great guy, really great guy named Wade Nagel. And he's still a close friend. Somebody introduced me to him the first time we met, and he goes, "Oh, you're new to town," and he has this voice like this, and I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Well, what kind of guitar do you play?" I said, "Well, I got a Strat," and he goes, "Well, that's good, because if you don't play a Strat, you ain't shit." And I kind of thought about that for a second, and I literally woke up the next morning, and my first thought was, I got to get a different guitar. That's the way my mind works. It's almost like a challenge. Like, if I have to be, like, if you're not like all these other guys, you're not in the game. And so, like, I opened up Guitar Player magazine and I see that Seafoam PRS.
Yeah, it was called a PRS. It wasn't even the standard.
It wasn't even the standard yet. And so I'm like, that could be it.
So you called me right after you bought the green guitar, and you had played it through a Marshall and Joe Ely's band, and you called me and said, it sounds like a really thick telly with more balls.
I think I told you that at the guitar show, because we had not met.
Yeah.
I think I told you at the guitar show.
Yeah.
But that was kind of that was where I was coming from with it. There was a guy in Austin named Danny Thorpe who did the first guitar show with Charlie Wurz back in the day, and he's the guy that told me that my Fiesta Red Strat had a little darker red underneath it, and I'm thinking, man, maybe it's been refinished. He goes, no, man, that's Dakota. They sprayed it over it. He knew everything, and he got me into old Marshalls, and I finally got a great vintage Marshall that got stolen right away in San Francisco, but he helped me get another one. You could put it on account. I had an account at Ray Hennig's Heart of Texas Music, and anything. Just put it on your account. Cool. Walk out with it. So yeah, playing with Ely, obviously, that if you know his music at all, it runs the gamut of like these ballads to this hyper balls to the wall. The Clash loved him rock and roll, and there was the previous band they had a pedal steel player named Lloyd Maines, who's one of my closest friends now, and one of the best musicians and producers I know, who played pedal steel through a distortion pedal, and I was very influenced by that. And a lot of the pedal steel stuff I do through the, taking it and playing it through the Marshall as opposed to the telly through a deluxe reverb. I'm like, man, I'm copping that. So really, the Seafoam green, the all mahogany guitar with a pretty hot pickup in it, not tons of low end, but a great top end through the Marshall. It was like a telly on steroids, and it was the perfect guitar and amp setup. And with Ely, who also gave me tons of room to do my thing and to develop, encouraged me, do your thing. And I learned. I became a musician in that band with that guitar.
So I want to just make a couple observations about this. By the way, this DG Custom, you're using these now.
Well, I've been using them since the day they were born.
Okay, good.
Just as a point, I helped hatch this thing from the ground up.
I've never heard anybody say, I'm disappointed with my DGT, I've sold it. I never heard it. I've heard other things, there's a big eBay with PRS guitars, and just as there is with all other brands, but I never heard that. There was a cover on Guitarist Magazine, which is the English magazine, said DGT released best PRS ever, which I thought was cool. The thing that happens is this market gets bored, but this is just a really, really good tool to play music on. And once people have them, they don't let them go. They just don't let them go. And that you should be proud of. I think that's really cool. That you're insistent that it works really well for you translates in that it works really well for other musicians, which I really like. The quote I always liked was Brent Mason. I said, "Why do you like your DGT?" He goes, "I don't know, it just works for me." And I thought that was a very sophisticated comment. He didn't analyze it. It just worked for him.
Man, I love vintage guitars. I've cherry-picked vintage guitars over the years. I owned a Burst at one point. I sold it 5 years too early. I could have put another zero on the end of it. But every time I take an old guitar out, my 335 is really special, but man, it's a little bit like there's a mild Burl Ives factor, when I'm playing the 335. It's just, for me, it's just a little big in my hands. But that guitar, I could live with that guitar. But when I take other guitars out, man, I'm always like, where's my guitar?
Yeah.
And it just works.
If you haven't had a chance to get your hands on a DGT, if you haven't gotten a chance to hear one, you should try it. Can you play for everybody for a minute, and then we'll end this thing? Nice stories, David. Thank you for coming.
Sure. I'm going to
just have at
turn it all the way.
Sure, why not?